14 cents. That is the price of a serving of pumpkin seeds in bulk, the same food that Depression-era men roasted in dry pans and carried in their pockets through 12-hour agricultural shifts, and that modern endocrinology has since confirmed delivers a specific set of compounds that support testosterone synthesis through a mechanism that the $60 per month testosterone booster supplements on the market today do not address at the source. Not at the margin, at the source. Average testosterone levels in American men have been declining for decades. This is not a contested finding. It is documented in longitudinal population studies. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that testosterone levels in men of equivalent age declined significantly across successive birth cohorts from the 1980s through the 2000s, independent of obesity, smoking, and other lifestyle factors. A man of 50 in 1950 had measurably higher testosterone than a man of 50 in 2000, even after controlling for the variables that explain part of the decline. The hormonal environment of the 1950s was different from the hormonal environment of today in ways that cannot be fully accounted for by lifestyle differences. And the dietary differences between those two eras are among the most significant variables that research has not fully resolved. The men of the 1950s ate differently than men today in ways that the supplement industry has no commercial incentive to document, because documenting the dietary difference would undercut the commercial argument for the products that fill the testosterone support category. What they ate that most men today do not eat regularly in the proportions they ate it is what this video is about. And the entry point into that dietary difference is a 14-cent food that those men consumed without thinking about it because it was available, cheap, and part of the culinary tradition they had inherited from generations before them. The food is pumpkin seeds, raw or lightly roasted, consumed from whole pumpkins that American households processed as a matter of ordinary domestic practice in the 1950s in ways that have largely disappeared. And to understand why pumpkin seeds specifically matter for testosterone and not just for general nutrition, you need to understand the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which is the three-stage hormonal command chain that governs whether your body produces testosterone at all. The hypothalamus releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone on a pulsatile schedule. That signal travels to the pituitary gland, which responds by releasing luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone travels through the bloodstream to the Leydig cells in the testes, where it initiates the synthesis of testosterone from cholesterol. This is the entire chain. If it breaks at any point, testosterone production declines regardless of what the Leydig cells are capable of producing when the signal arrives correctly. Most of the testosterone support products on the market address the Leydig cell end of the chain. They provide zinc to support the enzymatic conversion step. They provide cholesterol precursors. They provide compounds that claim to stimulate testicular activity directly. What very few of them address is the command chain above the Leydig cells, and specifically the disruption of that chain by elevated cortisol and rising estrogen that progressively suppress the hypothalamic pituitary signal as men age past 50. Pumpkin seeds contain a group of phystorules, including beta-sitosterol and delta-7 sterols, that research has associated with modulation of the estrogenic feedback that disrupts the hypothalamic pituitary axis in aging men. The mechanism is indirect but documented. Research published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that pumpkin seed supplementation produced improvements in testosterone-associated hormonal markers in aging male subjects, with subjects experiencing measurable reductions in symptoms of androgen deficiency. The effect was not attributed to direct testosterone synthesis stimulation, but to modulation of the hormonal environment in which the synthesis command chain operates. This is the distinction that separates pumpkin seeds from a zinc supplement. Zinc supports the Leydig cell conversion step. Pumpkin seed phytosterols support the command chain that determines whether the Leydig cells receive the signal to convert in the first place. Both matter. They work on different parts of the same system. And 14 cents of pumpkin seeds addresses the part that most testosterone support products completely ignore. The zinc content of pumpkin seeds is the second mechanism, and the one with the most direct clinical documentation. A serving of pumpkin seeds, approximately 30 grams, provides approximately 4 milligrams of zinc in a food matrix form. Research at Wayne State University, published in the 1990s, demonstrated that zinc supplementation in marginally zinc-deficient older men produced near doubling of serum testosterone levels over 6 months. That study used dosing that is achievable through dietary zinc from food sources in men whose dietary patterns include regular consumption of zinc-dense foods. The critical detail that most supplement marketing omits is that zinc's testosterone-supporting effect is specific to men who are zinc deficient. A man with adequate zinc status does not double his testosterone by taking more zinc. But a man with marginal zinc status, which research suggests describes a significant proportion of men over 50 whose dietary patterns have shifted away from zinc-dense whole foods over the preceding decades, does show meaningful hormonal response to zinc repletion. The magnesium content of pumpkin seeds is the third mechanism and the one that connects most directly to the free testosterone question, rather than just total testosterone. Magnesium binds to sex hormone binding globulin, the carrier protein that renders testosterone biologically inactive by transporting it in a form unavailable to androgen receptors in muscle and other tissues. A study published in Biological Trace Element Research found that magnesium supplementation significantly increased both total and free testosterone in men over 60 months, with the free testosterone effect attributed to magnesium competing with testosterone for SHBG binding sites, and thereby increasing the proportion of testosterone circulating in the bioavailable free form. Free testosterone is the fraction that actually reaches androgen receptors in muscle tissue and drives the muscle protein synthesis, energy production, and libido responses that testosterone is supposed to drive. A man with adequate total testosterone but elevated SHBG has the same practical hormonal deficit as a man with low total testosterone. Magnesium addresses the SHBG binding problem that total testosterone measurements and most testosterone support products do not address. Pumpkin seeds provide zinc and magnesium simultaneously in a food matrix form that the body processes with the full digestive enzyme complement and cofactor availability that whole food consumption provides. A zinc supplement and a magnesium supplement taken separately provide the same minerals in isolated forms that the body must process without the enzymatic context of whole food. The bioavailability difference is documented in the literature on mineral absorption from whole food versus supplement sources. The 1950s, man who roasted pumpkin seeds in a dry pan and ate a handful with his lunch was delivering zinc, magnesium, beta-sitosterol, and delta-7 sterols to his endocrine system simultaneously in food matrix form at 14 cents per serving, without any awareness that he was doing something that 60 years of subsequent endocrinological research would eventually confirm as mechanistically intelligent. The tryptophan content of pumpkin seeds adds a fourth mechanism that almost no discussion of testosterone-supporting foods includes. Tryptophan is the dietary precursor to serotonin, and serotonin plays a role in modulating the pulsatile release of gonadotropin-releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. The hypothalamic GnRH pulse pattern determines the downstream luteinizing hormone signal intensity and therefore the testicular testosterone output. Disruption of serotonergic tone at the hypothalamic level, which occurs in men with chronic stress, chronic sleep disruption, and chronic low-grade depression, suppresses GnRH pulsatility and reduces downstream testosterone production through a mechanism that is entirely separate from the Leydig cell conversion step. Adequate dietary tryptophan supports the serotonergic environment in which normal hypothalamic GnRH function is more likely to be maintained. The men of the 1950s who ate pumpkin seeds regularly were supporting hypothalamic serotonergic tone with tryptophan, supporting the Leydig cell conversion step with zinc, supporting free testosterone availability with magnesium, and modulating the estrogenic feedback suppression of the command chain with phytosterols, all from 14 cents of seeds that required nothing more sophisticated than a dry pan and a few minutes. The reason this information does not appear in the testosterone support supplement category is the same structural explanation that applies to every effective UN patentable food compound. Pumpkin seeds cannot be patented. A supplement company cannot manufacture a proprietary pumpkin seed formula that prevents competitors from selling an identical product at the same price. The margins on 14-cent seeds are insufficient to fund the clinical trials that would generate the specific health claims required for supplement marketing, the advertising in men's health publications, or the influencer endorsement networks that distribute performance nutrition information to men over 50. The supplement category that generates hundreds of millions in annual revenue from men trying to address declining testosterone requires products with sufficient margin to sustain that distribution infrastructure. 14-cent seeds do not generate that margin, so they are not in that conversation. And the men who most need what they provide have been redirected toward products that address individual isolated components of the hormonal system, while the whole food that addresses the entire command chain simultaneously sits in the bulk bins at every health food store for less than the cost of a single serving of the supplement category. It renders partially obsolete. The preparation method matters for one specific reason. The phytosterols and fat-soluble compounds in pumpkin seeds are concentrated in the inner kernel of the seed and are sensitive to the degradation that high-temperature commercial roasting produces. The optimal preparation is light dry pan roasting at medium heat for 5 to 7 minutes, which removes surface moisture and enhances flavor without driving out the fat-soluble bioactive compounds. Alternatively, raw shelled pumpkin seeds consumed without any heat treatment provide the full phytosterol, zinc, magnesium, and tryptophan content without any heat-related degradation. Purchase raw shelled pumpkin seeds from any health food store or bulk food supplier. 30 grams per day, approximately a small handful, is the serving size that provides the zinc and magnesium content documented in the research on hormonal markers in aging men. Consume with food, as the fat-soluble phytosterol fraction absorbs more completely in the presence of dietary fat. The cost at bulk pricing is approximately 14 cents per daily serving, which amounts to approximately $4 per month. Compare this to testosterone support supplements marketed specifically to men over 50, which range from $30 to $80 per month and address individual components of a hormonal system that pumpkin seeds address more comprehensively. The men of the 1950s, who had measurably higher testosterone than men of equivalent age today, were not eating a complicated nutritional protocol. They were eating whole foods that happened to contain zinc, magnesium, phytosterols, and tryptophan that the male endocrine system requires at multiple points in its command chain to function at baseline capacity. They were eating pumpkin seeds because they grew pumpkins, because waste was culturally unacceptable in a generation shaped by Depression-era scarcity, and because the practice of roasting and eating pumpkin seeds was a domestic tradition they had inherited and maintained without any awareness of its endocrinological significance. The research that has since characterized the mechanisms explains what they were doing. What has not changed between the 1950s and now is the food or its mechanism. What has changed is that the distribution system for men's health information was built by and financially depends upon the supplement industry, which requires products with margins sufficient to sustain that system, and 14-cent bulk seeds do not qualify. The testosterone support category will continue to grow its revenue. The research documenting what pumpkin seeds do at the command chain level, at the zinc conversion step level, at the SHBG binding level, and at the serotonergic hypothalamic modulation level will continue to accumulate in journals that the supplement industry's marketing department has no incentive to summarize for the men who could act on it. This video is part of the alternative distribution system for that information. Tell me in the comments whether pumpkin seeds were a regular part of your household growing up, and whether the men in your family who ate them maintained hormonal vitality into older age at levels you observe declining around you today. Subscribe, because the archive of what men ate in the 1950s that explains the hormonal measurements the research has documented is significantly larger than one seed, and every entry in it costs less than what the supplement industry sold you to address the gap its absence created.